Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, Custom Carving and Epoxy UK, the home of everything epoxy and carving related. If it's your first time, welcome, hit that subscribe, and if you're a regular subscriber or viewer, just want to say thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't already as well, go back and watch that last video. I absolutely love this ocean effect I've created on the wood, and it's not as complex as you might think, so absolutely stunning results in that. But for this video I'm going to do something slightly different. Those of you that have been following the channel know that I've been playing around with either the crackle effect or the DragonScale effect, with some really good results actually, but it's got me thinking. I've only tried it in this mold, so I want to go a little bit out there. I want to try it in a standard round mold just to see if I get a different, more even effect. But to make it a bit different, I'm going to try and put almost 4 different strong colours in there, as well as the clear transparent. So for those of you that don't know, with the crackle effect, you've got to have a thin layer of clear, almost transparent, or transparent if you want to go that route, as a base layer before you put in your heavier mica powders or whatever it is you're going to be using. Otherwise it just won't work. So for this one I wanted to experiment a little bit, and I wanted to try metallic powder, chameleon powder, a metallic paste, and standard mica powder, all in the same coasters, to see if it gives us a different crackle effect, to see if we can see those different colours actually in the finished product, or not. So I'm going to be using this standard mould that I've got from Let's Resin, which is a standard round sort of coaster mould. Most of you have seen them, I think. Now the keys with these, you haven't got to fill them all the way, guys. If I filled these all the way, I'd probably need about 16 ounces of resin. They only need to be about half filled to make a good standard coaster. So I have mixed up a little bit much, if I'm being honest, as I always do. I've mixed up about 12 ounces of resin. I'm going to be using the T-Expert 1-to-1 resin, and I've just put that in my debubbling machine, so we're ready to go. A few people have asked as well, do you have to wait before you pour? And my honest answer is, I haven't in mine so far, and I think they've come out with some good effects, so there's no need to. I will get a quick temperature for you guys as well, so that you can see what temperature my room's at, in case that makes a difference. So the plan is, I'm going to mix up 2 transparents, and these are all going to be the heavier mica, and then I'm hopefully going to have some white spear to just do a push at the end and push it out to the edges. I'm not going to be using these, just these 4 molds that I've cleaned, and hopefully we're going to get some cool effects. Also guys, I'm trying to really grow the channel this year, and I want to know if you guys are liking the content you're seeing. Is it too frequent? Because again, I'm trying to get a video out almost every couple of days at the moment, and it's suddenly got to my attention that actually some of my videos might not be doing as well because I'm doing so many. So let me know if you like the content. Again, if you can do me a favor, I would really appreciate you just liking, giving it a thumbs up, putting something in comments and sharing it, you know, because it's the only way in which I'm going to be able to continue to grow this channel, and I really want to see us grow so that we can keep doing these experiments on a regular basis. So all I'm going to do, this is clear resin, about 12 ounces of mixed up, which I think again is going to be too much, and apologies about my tiny workspace. It is what it is. You've got to work with what you've got. Always remember your safety gear as well, guys, so get that PPE on. And if you've not watched my latest sort of 10 simple steps to the perfect bloom video, go back and watch that. It's quite entertaining, I think. But all I'm going to do is try and pour these reasonably evenly into these cups. So I've got my resin roughly probably 3/4 of the way, I think, because I might even try and layer these if I can. And it is an if. This is just an experiment. I do these crazy experiments so that you guys don't have to. And then if they work, then by all means copy the technique, and it'd be great to start sharing the results we're getting. So if you're getting any value whatsoever from my tutorials, from my videos, start sharing the results, you know, because it'd be great to see just what results we're all getting as a community together. But as you can see, just pouring that resin into my separate cups. And then I'm going to leave hopefully enough in here to just do a push at the end, because I think that is also part of the key for me of a good crackle effect or dragon scale effect, whatever you want to call it. It's having enough clear left over at the end to just give it a push. So I've probably got around about 2 ounces left in there. And I'm just going to put that to one side until the end. And if it heats up throughout, it heats up throughout, you know. I'm doing this as it happens. So just to give you guys an idea, it is snowing in the UK at the minute. My resin's sitting at 20.4 degrees after it's gone through that debubbler. So not very warm at all. And I don't know if that's going to impact this or not. Now, hopefully it's going to warm up a little while I mix up the colours. So for my 2 transparents, I'm going to do them identical. I've got some purple resin dye from Let's Resin. And I want this to be, as I say, not too colourful. So I'm just going to put 3 drops of this in each, like so. And then I'm going to put a couple of drops of the purple alcohol ink in as well from Let's Resin, just to give it a slightly stronger colour than what it would do without that. 3. There we go. So the key is here, you want it to stay transparent. You don't want it too opaque, otherwise you will not get that nice crackle effect, what you're looking for. So it has to be something transparent. I haven't tried this yet with just alcohol ink, but I would imagine it would work. So you can see there, it's not very strong at all. It's just literally giving that sort of resin an undertone, and it's pretty much crystal clear apart from that undertone of colour. And as I said, I'm going to do 2 pots of this exactly the same, because I'm hoping, if the experiment goes the way that I want it to do this in almost 2 layers. And I'm going to be using the puddle pour effect just to see if we can get those different colours or different rings of scale or colours happening throughout the coaster. I don't know if we will, to be honest with you, because when I've done the crackle effect in the past, they tend to all blend together. So we will see, and there's probably a way to keep it separate. I just need to keep experimenting until we find it. So there are my 2 almost transparent colours. Now I'm going to try and do these in the order that I want to do them, and instead of gold I'm going to go with silver this time, and this is metallic silver, and it's a really nice colour. Now I want it reasonably heavy because that's what creates the effect, but again with these metallics, especially with golds and silvers, if you go too heavy, they will take over the whole thing and you won't see anything else. So just be aware of that. And again, really mix in your micas. The last thing you want is, if this does work out, is a little pocket of mica powder on the top of your piece where you've not mixed your mica properly. So again, just really mix it round. Make sure it's all combined. You will probably get a few bubbles in it, but it doesn't matter. Really scrape, especially if you use these paper cups as well. So that is my silver. Not the brightest, but it's a nice colour nonetheless. And I actually think this is going to be quite a dark theme of coaster, which I don't mind. So that is my silver. Next, I'm going to go in with this metallic blue pigment paste, which again, I tried this, I used this to actually do my waves in the Ocean Waves project, and it is a lovely colour. A little bit thick, but again, you don't need a lot. Just whatever's left on your stick once you've stirred it around like that. And that should do. And these last for ages, guys. So if you're thinking about getting some pigment pastes in these pots, they'll probably last you for years. So it's well worth the investment. And just watch how quickly this turns into a really deep metallic blue. hopefully it's going to be stunning. And I think this is going to be the heaviest colour. So I think this is going to be the one that, if any take over, it's probably going to be this one. But I absolutely love just the different tones, the metallicness, and the sheen that I get from this blue. Just again, mixing it around as much as I possibly can so it's all thoroughly mixed, and that has got a lovely sheen to it. So that is that one. Next, I'm going to use a chameleon powder, which is a reddish tinge. Again, I just wanted to see what effect, if any, it's going to have. And it's a slightly different colour, but I think it will still go with the colour scheme. So again, pouring quite a bit of this, and because I want it to be heavy, and I'm hoping with the dark undertones of the coaster, it's still going to give us that nice chameleon effect. But you never know until you try. It's almost a purpley red, this one, so I think it will go quite well with the colour scheme. And as I say, they are going to be quite dark anyway. So I think the chameleon effects will still come through if it works. And you'll notice I'm not using any white in this. So I don't think the scales are going to be very light. I think if anything, it's going to be quite a dark coaster. And it'd be interesting to see if we can see the different micas in there once I've poured. So that's that one. And again, when you're doing a crackle effect, this is probably what's going to take the most of your time. The pour doesn't actually take any time at all. And then my final is this sort of lighter blue mica. Again, I really liked this when I did it in the ocean waves effect in the last project. And again, I want them all quite heavy, these micas, so I'm putting in probably a little bit more than I normally would, just to give me enough weight so hopefully they settle differently and give us a different effect. Whether it will work, I don't know. Let me know in comments, guys. Do you think this is going to work, or do you think it's going to be a blobby mess at the end of it? So again, just mixing it around, and I should get a lovely vibrant blue colour, this one. Again, this one's not metallic or pearlescent or anything, it's just a standard blue mica that I quite like, and I think this will give us a different contrasting colour to that purple. In fact, it is slightly metallic, but I think only as much as mica powders tend to be slightly metallic. So there we go. Colours are mixed. Now, the fun part, he says. So what I'm going to do, first thing you want to do is make sure you have got some of your transparent layer across at least a base of each of your coasters. So I'm going to go in with my first cup and literally start pouring from the centre, and you can see that's a really light colour. And I think I should get enough for all four from this one cup, because it only has to be thin. And I'm just trying to spread it around evenly, so all of these coasters should have a thin, transparent layer to start with. And if it hasn't spread naturally itself, give it a bit of a helping hand. Use your stick and just move it around your mould. It's as simple as that, and then let it settle before you start your puddle pour. So again, just trying to get every drop out, because I don't like to waste resin, as you know if you watch the channel regularly. There we go. So that is those. And I've just noticed something's dropped in there which I don't want, so I'm just going to take that out, whatever it is, probably a little bit of dried resin, and get that off my stick at the side. So next step, all I'm going to do is literally just help the resin spread around to the sides. It will self-level out afterwards, but sometimes I think it just needs that helping hand to spread, especially with this resin, because it's a medium viscosity resin. It's not a thin one. I haven't tried this with a thin one yet, or a thick one, so we might get very different effects by doing that. I'm not sure. And again, just doing it exactly the same, spreading it all the way around so there is an even, thin coat on the base of every one of these coasters, hopefully. And it only has to be thin, but this is what is going to create, hopefully, the right surface to get that crackle effect on. Again, just doing exactly the same, moving it around all the way to the edges, and I'm just making sure that that thin layer is going all the way around the coaster. And if there's not quite enough, I've got some spare to top it up with, which is that second batch that I mixed up. So I'm just going to have a look and see how it spreads first, because as I say, I do want that thin layer going across and at least going to the edges of each one of these molds. If I do need to add a tiny bit more, I'm going to, and where you can see those spots where I can see the silicone between, for me, means there's not quite enough in these. Almost, but not quite. So I'm just going to add, move that one out of the way. In fact, I'm going to add a tiny bit of clear because I think I've got too much clear left over anyway. And that will mix anyway with the resin that's already in there once I mix it around. So there's a little bit of clear, just a little blob. Probably shouldn't use that word when I'm doing coasters. So as you can see, you also want a reasonably level surface. Now, I haven't leveled this back out for the past 4 or 5 projects, so I'm hoping it's still level. And now, once he can get his torch working properly, I'm just going to get rid of any of those surface bubbles. Also helps the resin spread just a little bit before I go on to the next stage. And then I'm just looking here for if there are any blatant bubbles that I've missed. Again, I just want to go around here. I think my mold's slightly unlevel actually. I think this is an even spread, but it's slightly lifting at that end, which is a little bit of a concern. And maybe I should have re-leveled my table before doing this experiment, because it's a lot of resin that I don't want to waste. Again, just going to go around these edges, making sure that I've got that surface layer. And I think that's good. And as I add the different micas anyway, it's going to spread this out even further, hopefully. Maybe just a drop more in that one. Should have mixed up a tiny bit more, I think, but hey ho. There. I think we're there. So again, just quickly give it a mix around so that the dye I have got in there does mix around into the transparents as well. But I think that's a much better coverage than what I had before. And we've got that surface layer. So sorry it's taken longer than it normally would. I think that was me underestimating how much to mix. So I'm just going to leave that for a second, let it settle, and make sure we've got that even layer. Again, guys, while you're here, do me a massive favour, just give it a thumbs up, give the video a share, and put something in comments. You know, it's great to hear from you guys, whether you're enjoying the experiments or not, you know, and even if you're not, you know, put it in there. It'd be useful to know what I can change, what I can adapt, because over the next few months, I'm hoping to grow this channel so that we become a huge resin community, trying out loads of experiments every week and hopefully continuing that learning process together. There we go. I can't see any bubbles in there, so now the fun part. Up till now, it's all been preparation. So I'm going to start with this silver, and all I'm going to do is a puddle pour. I want to use about half of it. I don't want to use all of it. So again, just fold your cup like that, and I'm going to try and pour into the center of each. And I want it reasonably even, like so. And it doesn't seem to be shifting one way or the other, so maybe my surface is actually quite level. Don't know, we'll find out as the project goes on, I suppose. So that is my silver, and I've just got one drop in there, which I didn't want, but there we go. Next, I'm going to go in with the dark blue. And again, it'll be interesting to see, with this being a pigment paste, if it creates any different effect, because I've only ever really tried this with the metallics and with mica up to now. But I'm hoping we're going to get a really cool effect here. But it is just an experiment. You never know until you demold with resin. That is the downside, I suppose, to working with it. So that's that one. Next, I'm going to use the chameleon. And again, just trying to pour it into the center if I can, so it evenly spreads. Trying to keep it as even as I can. And save some for round 2. There we go. Next, in with the blue mica, which is this one. And again, just going to try and pour it into the center like a puddle pour. And we should have enough here for 2 rounds. So I'm going to do 2 rounds and see if it creates a different effect. I'm excited by the colours though. They're looking really cool at the minute. So next I'm going to go back in with this extra transparent that I had, just to push what I've got there to the side. Hopefully that'll make a little bit of a gap. Like so. For layer 2. Again, just trying to keep it as even as I can. Not the easiest thing with resin, I know, especially when you're pouring from these cups. And then I've got the tiniest bit of this left, so I'm going to save that till the end, because if I can push it out with that rather than the clear, I'm going to. And then layer them in the same process again. So a little bit of silver. Now I know I've got less silver available this time, which is actually a good thing because I don't want it to take over the whole piece. And as I say, I don't know if this is going to work or not. I just thought it was a fun experiment, and I've never tried it before in these circular molds. So I just wanted to see if I get a different effect to that slightly misshapen mold that I use. So again, back in with the blue. Again, trying to keep it as even as I can. That's the blue. Back in with the chameleon. So we're going to have an interesting looking coaster anyway, I think, at the end. Regardless of what effects we get. I think I've judged this about perfectly, which is unusual for me. So that is the end of the chameleon. And now just going to go back in with that light blue. And what I'm going to try and do at this point is do it from a bit of a height, so it creates that push out effect. A little bit more difficult to pour, but I think it just helps move that resin, because there's quite a lot of resin in there at the minute. Again, just lifting it up to a height as I'm pouring. And as you can see, that just helps push them out a little bit. So that is that. Now, for the final bit, I'm going to use the rest of my clear transparent, I suppose you'd call it. And then I'm just going to put a bit of clear in each as well. So this is the tiny bit I've got left of this clear purple sort of transparent look. And I'm actually impressed at the minute. I've actually managed to pretty much do it reasonably evenly across them all. And now, just to give it that final push, the clear that I've got left over, I want to do it from a height again, just to try and make sure I get some sort of push out effect like that. And it should push out and then all come back in, hopefully. Again, trying to keep it as even as I can, because I don't want 4 coasters at completely different heights, because I want this to ideally look like a matching set. And that's all I can do now, apart from wait. I'm just going to torch any of the surface bubbles off. Having real problems with this torch at the minute. These are going to be quite deep coasters though as well, which I don't normally do them this deep, but I think it's because the amount of layers I've put in there. But it's going to be interesting. Now I could put something in the center, but again, I don't want to. I just want to see what these naturally do. So that is pretty much it now. We'll come back at demold tomorrow and see what effects we've got. In fact, I'm going to try putting you guys on a time lapse whilst I put the spare into my drip dragon. And I'm going to leave it on time lapse for about 20 minutes or so, just to see if there's any effect. Morning guys, and it's the next day and it is time for demold. So I'm going to do this little starfish, which I don't know if you saw, but I just put a tiny little center in, some alcohol ink and some white sinker. So I actually put one of the centers in that I normally use for my blooms, and it's come out really cool actually. I quite like that effect. Crystal effect starfish. Again, must have about 15 of these now that I'm doing, and I love the way the spores just grow in the legs but not in the center. So that is the starfish. I'll do the drip dragon next. Now this one's going to be interesting this time because there was a lot of clear that went into this, as well as the colouring, so it'd be interesting to see what effects that has had. So I'm expecting almost a water dragon here. Wow. Again, he's come out really cool. And so a bit like a watercolour scheme, because mainly he was from the spare that I had left over when I did the Ocean Waves project. But I actually quite like the elements of the transparent running through it as well. So again, I think he's turned out really cool as a drip dragon. And the greatest thing about these is it is just the spare resin drips put in your mould until it's full up. So again, really happy with him. And now for the coasters. Now looking at the back, we've definitely had some form of reaction, so that's good. And it's kept a little circle of transparentness in each one. So it's going to be interesting to see. And I'm just hoping we've got some... Oh, wow. Look at that. That is absolutely stunning. Mainly the blue that's taken over. And then I think that ring's caused by putting in that additional layer of the transparent. But I'm really liking that. That is absolutely stunning. And again, I can't really see much of the silver, but you see glistens of it around. And the same with that chameleon powder. They all just seem to blend together, but really liking these. So that's one. Wow. Again, look at that. And you can just see, look, my finger through it. So this is that element of transparentness in the center, which I actually quite like. But yeah, I think these have come out really well. Not as much scaling around the sides, but I've definitely got the scaling in the center. And most of the silver, you can see it around the sides, but you can't actually see it in there. But again, really happy with these. I think these are definitely more of a DragonScale effect than a crackle. Wow. And again, they've all got slightly different texture, even though they were done exactly in the same way. This one's not got as much of the crackle either, but I still really like the effect. So as a set, I think they look lovely. And there's that one as well. And again, not as much crackle in that one. I'd say this one's probably, well, it's between these two are my favourites. But again, this was only half fill in that mould, guys, so it shows you don't need to fill them. So yeah, I think it was a really successful sort of blue DragonScale effect we ended up getting, rather than a crackle. But I'm happy with that. They're lovely coasters, and I hope you've enjoyed the content. If you have, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.